Hey, this is Gabe from the Plan Project Management Group with GitLab, talking to you about the 12.8 release kickoff issue that we have. Things that we're going to be focusing on in 12.8 within our group. There's some problem validation stuff. There are some solution validation stuff. Within problems, we're going to be starting to understand better how we can prevent the ability to duplicate labels across projects and groups, which is kind of noisy. We originally started with project level labels, then we added group level labels and the ability to promote project to group level labels, but you can still prevent duplicates and they all filter down. It's kind of hard to tell which label you should be using, especially if they're all named the same thing. So we want to figure out the best way to solve for that. We're also going to start looking into how we can automate the triaging of labeling of issues, and more specifically around how can we automate issue workflows where it makes sense. So this is the early phases of the validation cycles. Within solution, we've been working on understanding how we can add more than one time box to an issue. More specifically, an issue can belong to maybe a sprint, maybe a milestone, maybe a version. We're pretty close. We've gone through a lot of design cycles here, but we need a few more customer interviews. So before we get that scheduled, if for final implementation phases, we're going to talk to some folks, get their feedback, make sure that the solution is on point. In terms of design priorities, we're going to be looking at how we can provide first class support for issue task lists and tasks. We have tasks in Markdown, but they're not really a real data object as far as the product is concerned. And this is going to enable us to do things like add weights to tasks and automatically roll them up into issues as a whole, which will be great. And then one of a highly requested feature, probably one of the most highly requested features within the project management group as a whole, is group level description templates for issues, epics, and merge requests. So we're going to start designing that out and seeing how complex it would be, seeing what the simplest MVC would be, and hopefully getting that scheduled in the future milestone. Specific features we're going to look to deliver in 12.8, burnup charts is one of them. And this kind of goes in line with the theme of trying to better report on scope change and movement within a milestone. Right now, the burn down chart isn't very historically accurate, as in if I were to add a bunch of scope to a given milestone, it's not very indicative that that's happening. So I could complete 5 issues on one day, and I could add 5 issues one day to that milestone, and this line wouldn't move. So the burnup chart, what it does is it will track the scope that is completed over a given milestone. It will also track the total scope. So you can track both what is added and what is removed, and it's kind of a more accurate way to understand the narrative and the story of how things play out within a given milestone. After this happens, we're going to continue to show maybe like what milestone is or what work has been carried over from previous milestone to understand, like how well your team is doing on executing, finishing what they've committed to. And this also will lead to naturally a better report within the milestones to do investigation around why didn't we get things done? How can we reduce the friction of a scope creep during a given sprint? So this is a big thing that folks have been asking for within GitLab, and we're excited to work on that. Another feature we're going to be working on is we want to get at least one field in the sidebar, any sidebar, whether that's an epic or an issue, updating in real time. The significance of this is doing a proof of concept on how we're going to address more real-time features within GitLab, which has kind of been a hot topic of discussion across several different groups. And what we want to do, case in point, if I were to update a label right now and somebody else is looking at this issue, they would not see that label update. And that's kind of, we want people to understand that issues are a single source of truth, but also that what they're looking at is the most accurate reflection of the data within an issue to date. And the only way to do that is using things like WebSockets. We currently use eTag caching, which kind of has its drawbacks, and we're looking to kind of level things up with WebSockets and Action Cable within Rails. So goal is very small, get one field updating, either assignees, milestone. I'm not sure what team is going to decide here, but the goal is just one small thing to do a proof of concept so that we can continue to expand and grow. We also would like to address some UX debt from not filtering. We released this in 12.7, but in order to get it in 12.7, we had to make a lot of concessions in terms of usability. And this is following up on that to make sure that it's a top-notch experience. So we'll be addressing this issue as well. There's lots of little things that, just, nuances that will make it a better experience. So if you want to check this out, great. I will post a link to this planning issue within the YouTube video. You can check it out. You can click through, you can read everything. And then there's also a link to some of the more relevant epics that are kind of the parent holders for the bigger picture vision of why we're working on these features, and would love for you to contribute if you have any feedback. Thanks.